Welcome to Risen with Autism. Today we have our guest, Martha Zetta. She's a speech language pathologist and has been for over 5 years. She's going to share with us some special insights for you teachers and parents to help you in navigating how autism can work with their speech. All right, Martha, will you please explain why autism is something that you deal with as a speech language pathologist?
Okay, one of the core attributes, characteristics of autism is a communication disorder. That is just, if a person has autism, they will have communication issues. And the other core attribute or characteristic that an autistic person will have is repeated affixation with behaviors or interests. And that would be like, it can be like flapping, or sometimes just an interest, as in all I want to talk about is roadrunners, but always the core will be language. And so if a child is autistic, almost always, if they're in school and they're autistic, they will be coming to me for speech therapy.
Great. So tell us about how speech can sometimes lead to an autism diagnosis, and have you seen this?
Yes, often children are referred to special education because the teacher notices that they are not communicating the way that their peers are. And so that's where often I'm the first person to meet this student, and after talking to them for a little bit or just observing them for a little bit, I can tell, okay, there's more going on than just speech. And sometimes one of the things that can be going on is like what we call echolale, and that's just they repeat what you say. So if you say, "Hi Andrew, how are you doing today?" They might say, "How are you doing today?" or "doing today." They might just repeat the last word or couple words, or make the whole sentence that you just presented to them. And other things that like very poor eye contact. They don't really like making eye contact. It's not comfortable for them, and they don't get the same information from eye contact as we do. So those are some, just a couple of the signs that we that would tell us there's more going on than just speech.
Building upon that, what is the next step for you if you do think or a teacher suspects that a student may have autism or something like that going on, or speech issues?
Okay, so if a teacher does suspect, sometimes they do come to me first because of the speech, but there are a lot of teachers now that teachers are trained more and more these days on special needs students, and we do have so many of those. And a lot of teachers do know what to look for, especially in the earlier grades. They're used to kids coming into their classrooms, and then they already know this does not seem typical. This is different than the rest of my kids. And also, like, if they have been doing this for a while, they already have experience. They've done this before. Like, oh, last year I had a kid that was going through this. It might be autism. And so they already kind of know the red flags that to look for.
Okay. So what are some speech abnormalities that can be a red flag, as you've already mentioned a few, for a parent or a teacher, particularly in those early childhood years?
Okay, so teachers, they might notice they are students that have autism and they are nonverbal pretty much. Even if you tell them how to say the word, they probably won't even try to repeat it. Or if they do, they might just come out with, like if you say book, they might say ma. It's not even close. Now that's just in some of the more extreme cases. But other things that I've already mentioned, and then like if they don't have the reciprocal skills of turn taking, all they care about is their own little world, and you try to talk to them and they're not interested in interacting with you at all. They just want to stay in their own little world, and that can kind of look like, oh, I'm just selfish, I just want to do my own little thing. But it can be a sign of autism where they are just not social. That's part of they don't care for social interaction in a lot of instances. And so that's another red flag where they don't have friends with other little kids, and they don't really like interacting with you either. As for parents, are even very early signs, like Jennifer, you're mom, so at what age did your kids start smiling?
I think it's
3
like
months?
maybe even
6
maybe
months?
8 weeks. It's
Okay.
very early.
It's
yes.
very
Yeah.
early, yeah. And so when they start, that's a reciprocal thing, like you smile at them and they smile at you, or they just see you and light up. That is something that a severely autistic child might not do at all. They might not, and they might not babble, which is also just very, very early on. Children start to verbalize, like just little coos, and then it winds up being babbles. And there are some autistic children, they will not do any of that. Now, on the other hand, there is what is known as regression. So sometimes they develop, it seems like they're developing typically, and then at one point somehow they lose all those skills that they were displaying or seem to have, and all of a sudden they're gone.
Can you give us some examples of how you work with teachers of students with autism?
Well, at the school, in every school, you will have children with autism, and so usually if they have autism, they will be on my caseload for speech therapy.
Okay, so do you often communicate with the teachers about the students' progress, or is that something that doesn't happen very often?
Well, every 6 weeks, we send out a report card. We call it a progress report, because it's not grades, it's just progress on the student. And this is meant for the parents, but the information is there for the teacher as well. And often if the teacher has questions or whatever, we are there always to support them and to talk to them about, very often I tell them what I'm doing in therapy so that they can do that as well in the classroom, so that we, whatever skills I'm trying to teach, if it's only that 30 minutes that I'm seeing them twice a week, that's not going to have a big effect. But if it's reinforced and applied in the classroom as well, then it's going to happen all day long. And then I also try to talk to the parents about the same thing so that there's carryover.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's going to help make a bigger impact faster then.
Definitely.
So those communication with your speech pathologist or teacher, all those things matter so much for educators and parents alike.
Yes.
So what are some forms of assistive technology that autistic students may use, and how do they assist them in communication?
Well, autism can range from very high functioning, and I say that in the sense that there are adults now that have autism that have never been diagnosed, partly because they are so high functioning and it wasn't obvious. And now people are more in tune and know more about autism, are more aware of the signs and characteristics. But I had a friend that, a coworker, and while I was working with her, her husband got diagnosed with autism because she was new to the profession of speech therapy, and she said, "Oh, this is autism. I think my husband's autistic." And he got tested and he was. Now, I think I skipped over. What was your question?
Oh, that's okay. So just to clarify before we move on, someone that's high functioning, you mean someone that can function in society and maybe people don't recognize that they have
that disability.
Yes, disability. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so it can range from very high functioning to all the way to where they are nonverbal. And so I feel like in almost just with autistic children, there used to be the stereotype that we had in our head from movies, I believe mostly, that if you were autistic, you also had a very special gift, the savant, and that is very, very rare actually. So autistic people can, just like any other person, can range from very low IQs to very high IQs. And the higher their IQs, Elon Musk, he is autistic. And you learn skills and whatever you need to learn to make it in your life. Like for him, it wasn't that, certain social skills, they might not be that important to him, and he's good enough at his job, they don't affect him if he doesn't have them. So that's not a big deal. But for children that have like very low IQ or are severely autistic, then it's so important to teach them how to communicate. There are those that are totally nonverbal, and so then we do need to use AAC, augmentative communication. And we have something as simple as, and I'm gonna get this real quick. This is what we call a core board, and we use this especially in our self-contained classes where they're self-contained because the disabilities that those children have are so severe that they can only go into general education a limited amount of time. So we would use something like this to help them just point out like basic communication. There's eat, drink, and there's feelings. There are like run, soft. There's a lot of verbs. They are all in yellow, which is nice. Then feelings or adjectives. So it's color coded, and it's easier for the teacher to understand how to use this, because that's another thing, they need to be trained. And then it's also eventually, then it's also easier because of the color coding for the student to learn it as well. But for some, we also use, they look like Chromebooks or iPads, and there are programs that I really like. There are some that I really like. One of them is called LAMP, and it relies on motor memory, and so it's kind of like learning how to type. That J is always going to be that same spot. That Q is always going to be the same spot. Same here, like eat is always going to be the same spot. Drink or whatever, and then it can get more and more and more complicated. But we can start off with only the very basic ones showing, and then as they learn that vocabulary, we can pop up more vocabulary. And when maybe they click on eat, it'll open a new screen, and now it has Mexican food, Italian food, fast food, breakfast. They can click on one of those, and that'll open a new window. And so it can get very, I was gonna say complicated, but that's not the right word. It can get very elaborate. I mean, you can communicate in great detail.
That's cool.
And you can also learn to type on it if that's what once you're older.
Very cool. So this is a type of assistive technology. Yes. What term did you use for this?
This is a core board, and there are different programs for the electronic one that's on the iPad, and there's Touch Chat is one of them. There's a free version of it, which you can use, but when you touch an icon, it won't speak the icon. It doesn't say eat or whatever. Now the paid version is not very expensive. The school pays for it. But the school version that they pay for, then when you click on something, it will say the word as you click on the different words, like I want to eat, then you can push a button and it says I want to eat. Does the whole sentence for you.
Very interesting. And I'm sure those are very helpful for a lot of students. So our last question today, how can parents of a child with autism communicate with their teacher to help advocate for their child as a student?
Okay. Well, I feel like I've been so blessed to work with mostly teachers that might be the first to recognize a student as autistic, and we have found in my experience, I will answer your question, so remind me what that is. But in my experience too, that we have sometimes the teacher recognizes like, okay, something's not right. I do suspect autism. We don't tell the teacher that. I mean, the parent that a lot of times, because they're not ready to hear that. Very oftentimes, a parent doesn't want to hear their student is that different, their child is that different. And so sometimes when we have to write up in the school system, we have to write up a legal document that says these are the areas we're going to test, and we put in their autism. Sometimes I feel like they already kind of know and don't want to admit it, and they see that and they said, okay, but we don't want that one, and we can't do that. We have to say, if we're going to test one area, we have to test all areas. And what we tell the parent to brace them is we say, we just want to rule that out to soften the blow. And then if it is a disability, you know, if they do happen to have autism, then we have had a lot of parents cry when they first receive that news. So it makes me sad. I'm so blessed to have just everybody's healthy in my family. But when there are the parents that are very involved and they are very aware, and maybe they have family members that they're already exposed to this because of maybe their cousin or a nephew, or you know, they have somebody in their family or somebody they're familiar with, and so they're already keeping track of this. Parents can always in the school system request an autism evaluation. Now, if they request it, we will most likely grant it, unless we really, I mean, we do have every now and then those people that it's just not justified. We do kind of look at all the data from the teacher and from everyone that works with that student. But if they have autism, I mean, if the parent suspects they have autism, or maybe they're coming in and saying, my son has autism, and they want to advocate like for certain accommodations or certain things for the teacher to do differently with their child, most teachers are very open to that conversation. And I would say, if for some reason they were not, you can always go to the principal or assistant principal. They are trained to deal with, they are trained in the special education, about the laws, about the needs. They have insight into all of that as well. And so I would first talk to the teacher. Most likely you will have success there. But if not, then my next step would be to talk to one of the administrators at the school.
And you mentioned particular accommodations. If, for example, you're in an ARD with a parent and a teacher and the speech pathologist, and you don't necessarily know that accommodation would help your student, is that something that you as a parent are supposed to say? And how is a respectful way to do that if they are?
Okay, yeah, so an ARD meeting is a meeting that we have, it's a annual review and dismissal meeting, so to discuss, you know, where the student stands in the special education, like where we set goals for them. And we also, like, this is what we hope to accomplish by next year at this time, because those are held annually. And so we always include accommodations if we feel like they would be helpful. And this is a discussion that we have with an administrator will be there, a teacher will be there, and then you as a parent will be there. And this is a discussion. It's not the school saying, this is what we're going to do. If it's something that you're not comfortable with, we discuss it. And then you are also allowed to bring up, like, you know what, this is what I do at home. It really works for me. I have this little visual schedule where we're going to brush our teeth, we're going to go to bed, we're going to read a book, then we could take a shower, we're going to go to bed, or whatever it is, or even for the morning. And the parent says, this is what I've been doing at home. We can definitely always include accommodations that are working for you. Especially, we want to help all the children, and if anybody can help us, like, and know something that's already working, all the more reason. And even if you don't know it's working yet, let's try it. So
I think that's great. And as a former teacher myself, I know it can be intimidating in those meetings to feel like you as the parent know things, but you know your child better than anyone else in that room, because they only see them for a very small portion of the day. Even as a teacher, you have known them their whole life. So it's really important for you to take the time to stand up for your child and advocate. And if you do have questions, always ask questions. Even if you feel like it's a silly question, you are, as a parent, are not trained extensively on autism. You might have done a lot of research on your own, but that is not your training. So it's okay to call upon the people in the room to ask questions, and to have that open discussion, because sometimes it can feel more like, here's what we're doing, moving on. So that's why they invite the parents, so that you have the time to voice your opinion, voice your concerns, and have that open dialogue. So I just want to thank Martha for sharing all of her incredible insights into this area. And if you are a teacher, if you are a parent of someone with autism, we want to thank you for watching this. We would love for you to share. A reminder of our name is Time to Rhythm with the TISM. You can also join our Facebook community. There we have an open discussion for people to share resources, parents, educators, and just have that conversation and connect with people who have similar experiences. So we would love to connect with you. I want to thank Martha one last time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and Rhythm with the TISM.